Hello, I am Enrique Barra, and in this video we are going to develop a chronometer in React.js. This is the chronometer that we are going to develop, to implement. This will be our first application, and we will start from the Create React App application default and scaffold that Create React App program gave us. We are going to create the chronometer step by step. Okay? So we have also created a repository in GitHub where, if we go there, we will be able to see. Let me go to the repository. We will be able to see the different steps, the code, and if you don't know Git or GitHub, in this button you can even download the zip. Each step is in a branch in Git, and you can select it here. For example, if I want to see the code at step 3, I can click here, step 3, and this is the code, or I can download it to start from step 3. Okay? It's quite easy to manage. Okay? Let's continue. The chronometer is, as you can see here, quite simple. It has a start, a stop, and a reset functionality, and we will have also to manage with the disabling buttons and these kind of things. The steps that we are going to do are, in the first step, the basic structure, starting from the Create React App scaffold, and then we will create the start, stop, and reset methods, and finally some improvements like the zero path or disabling buttons. Okay, so let's start coding. To create the basic structure for our chronometer, let's start with this file, app.js. It has the default content that Create React App did for us. Okay, so welcome to React, to get started, edit the file. Okay, perfect. We also have here the CSS. I have prepared the default CSS, but you can create your own CSS and put it into this file. Okay, you can take a look at it. It is also on the GitHub that I told you. Okay, so there are some rules, CSS rules. You can also use Sass or any kind of CSS possibility or alternative. Okay, and we are going to use these classes. Also, the basic structure for a chronometer in HTML, I'm not going to write it. I'm going to substitute the default that React gave us for this structure. This structure is just some divs, span, and 3 buttons. The first button, start, then stop, then reset. And the whole structure will have class names. Remember that in React we don't have class because it has a reserved word in JavaScript, but we have class name. So I also have these class names that correspond to the CSS that I have defined here. Sorry for not writing it step by step, but this is just plain HTML and CSS, and it is quite easy to understand. Okay? It's just HTML that I included in the render, in the return. So return, I have one div. Remember that you only can return one element or an array of elements. So I have this first div wrapping everything, and you only have to reference with class name the different classes. How do we test this code? Okay, let's go to our hello world, and now we have to npm start if we haven't done it before. And when it starts, it goes to localhost and the port 3000, and we see the default interface. We just added an interface to our first application. Okay, so start, stop, and reset don't do anything, and we have this HTML indicating these numbers that I wrote here. 0, 05, 04. Start, stop, and reset. Okay, let's continue from here. The first thing that we have to do now is to add a constructor and create the state, because our chronometer will have a state that will indicate this, and if the chronometer is running or not. And we will use also that to disable these buttons. What we want to learn here is how to set the state. Okay, let's go to app.js and create a constructor. The constructor receives the props. Sorry. The first line in the constructor is always to call Supper with props, and then we can define this dot state. Remember that the constructor does not use set state, but directly defines a state. What is the state? Well, I can add the minutes, seconds, and millis, and I also can let me remember the names that I gave it: minutes, seconds, and millis, and also if the chronometer is running or not. So millis, seconds, sorry, this is JSON, and minutes, and also if it is running, that is a boolean. If I save this, we can see if we have any kind of error. The application still works. Also, I can check the console, and there is no error there. Perfect. We have a constructor that receives some props. In this case, there is no props. And we have the state of our chronometer that has all the data that I need to draw this interface. Okay. How do we include this data into the HTML? Well, this is very React typical thing. So we are going to substitute these numbers for the state, okay? For what the numbers or the content that we have in the state. How do we do that? This dot state dot, these are minutes. And we use the curly braces because it is not a number, but it is a JavaScript expression. Then this dot state dot seconds, and finally I'm going to keep the 0 and this dot state dot millis. Okay, look here how we combine this, the number and the JavaScript expression. They will be substituted. And now if I save, well, let's see the interface before saving, and now if I save and I go to the interface, now there is no 5 and no 4, it is the state. If I change the state, that is what the timer is going to do. If I say 6 millis and 3 seconds and 1 minute, I save, and now for example we have one small, that is not a number, sorry, of course. The 0 pad, we will be adding it in another step. Now we have those numbers, so when we change the state, the interface will be automatically updated. Okay? Next thing that we are going to do is to add an onClick to these methods, to these buttons. How do we do that? We use the onClick property. Just remember the way to write onClick with camel case. OnClick, let's just do a console log with an arrow function that are quite easy. Let me check. Console log start. Sorry, it's just console log start. If I save, when I click on start, well, I open the console. Let me open it now, and I go to the console. If I click on start, Now I have a JavaScript function. Okay, and finally the same for stop and reset. If I save now, I have start, stop, and reset functionalities or events already captured, and they just do a console log. What they will do next? They will start the timer just to update the state. That is the chronometer. Start will start the timer, stop will stop the timer, and reset will reset the initial state. Let's do that in the next step.